Family Matters, 1989 to 1998, wasn't just another sitcom, it became a cultural touchstone of the 90s. With the lovable Winslow family, heartfelt life lessons, and Jaleel White's unforgettable portrayal of Steve Urkel, the show brought endless laughter and warmth to living rooms across the world. For 9 seasons, fans grew up alongside these characters, making the series a true TV classic. But beyond the laughs and nostalgia, real-life tragedy has touched the cast. Over the years, some of the actors who gave Family Matters its heart and humor have sadly passed away, leaving fans with bittersweet memories and a sense of loss. In this video, we look back at the stars we've lost from Family Matters, remembering their lives, their careers, and the lasting impact they left behind. Rosetta Lenoir was born on August 8, 1911, in New York City, and she was 78 years old when she began portraying Estelle Mother Winslow in Family Matters in 1989. On screen, Mother Winslow was the matriarchal anchor of the Winslow household, loving, firm, and occasionally hilariously sarcastic, delivering guidance and moral grounding with warmth that resonated deeply with audiences. Yet behind the scenes, Lenoir's life was a portrait of determination shaped by hardship. Her childhood was marked by illness, rickets nearly crippled her as a young girl, and by the harsh realities of growing up African American in early 20th century New York, where opportunities were scarce and discrimination rampant. She found a mentor in Bill Bojangles Robinson, who taught her to dance and instilled in her both discipline and resilience. As an adult, she confronted a segregated and exclusionary theater world, often being turned away from roles due to race, and faced constant pressure to conform to the era's limited expectations of black women in performance. Despite these obstacles, she founded the Alma's Repertory Theater, an interracial company that became a beacon of inclusivity and nurtured countless careers, a bold endeavor that drew criticism and envy from contemporaries who resented her challenge to Hollywood norms. Her private life was quiet, but those close to her recall her tenacity in defending her artistic and social convictions, often clashing with producers or board members who resisted her vision. Lenoir faced health struggles in her later years, contending with diabetes and recurring respiratory infections, yet she continued to work and mentor younger actors until her passing on March 17, 2002, at age 90. She left behind an estate estimated around $1 million, encompassing theater assets, royalties, and personal property, but her true legacy transcends monetary value, lying in her pioneering contributions to diversity, representation, and the nurturing of talent that changed the face of American theater and television forever. Michelle Thomas was born on September 23, 1968, in Brookline, Massachusetts, and she was 25 years old when she joined Family Matters in 1993 as Myra Monkhouse, the sweet yet spirited love interest of Steve Urkel. On screen, Myra was quirky, devoted, and often comically obsessive, offering fans a blend of humor and heart that made her an unforgettable counterpart to Urkel's chaotic energy. Behind the camera, Thomas's life bore far more turbulence than her on-screen persona suggested. She grew up navigating a racially mixed environment and a family that prized academic achievement over artistic expression, a background that left her determined to prove herself while masking insecurities. Her early success in pageantry, winning Miss Talented Teen International in 1984, was both a triumph and a pressure cooker, thrusting her into public scrutiny at a young age. Her career, while ascending, was marked by relentless schedules, industry politics, and the constant challenge of being typecast in teen and supporting roles despite her obvious talent. Tragically, Thomas's life was cut short when she was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of abdominal cancer. Her illness was sudden, a whirlwind of hospitalizations, experimental treatments, and mounting physical decline, leaving her colleagues and family reeling. The diagnosis forced her to confront mortality in the public eye, yet she remained dignified, often advocating awareness for the disease quietly during her last months. Her passing on December 23, 1998, at just 30 years old, robbed the entertainment world of a rising star. Her net worth was modest, estimated under $500,000, consisting mostly of television residuals and personal savings, but her cultural imprint endures, particularly for fans who remember her infectious energy and the tragic poignancy of a promising life interrupted before it could fully flourish. Barry Jenner was born on January 14, 1941, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and was 49 when he began his recurring role as Lieutenant Lou Murtaugh on Family Matters in 1990. His portrayal of Murtaugh, the stern, by-the-book police captain who alternately exasperated and guided Carl Winslow, brought sharp comedic timing, authority, and a relatable realism to the show, grounding the antics of younger characters with subtle gravitas. Off-screen, Jenner's life was defined by dedication and quiet resilience. Raised in a working-class, post-depression family, he was exposed early to hardship and loss, developing a strong work ethic and pragmatic worldview that would carry him through decades of Hollywood uncertainty. Though he avoided public scandal, he faced repeated professional hurdles, including typecasting in law enforcement or military roles, which limited the scope of his dramatic opportunities and occasionally frustrated his ambitions. Balancing his acting career with his service as a reserve LAPD officer for over 20 years was challenging, exposing him to real-world dangers and bureaucratic friction, yet this dual life enriched his portrayals, lending authenticity to his performances. Jenner endured personal heartache as well, navigating periods of solitude, the death of peers, and the relentless pressure of sustaining a long-term career in television without compromising his values. He passed away on August 9, 2016, at the age of 75 due to acute myeloid leukemia, leaving behind a net worth of around $1 million accumulated from television work, guest appearances, and modest investments. His legacy is not only material but also cultural. He embodied professionalism, integrity, and versatility, leaving a lasting impression on audiences and colleagues alike, remembered as an actor whose real-life dedication to justice and artistry mirrored the principled characters he portrayed on screen. Dick O'Neill was born on August 29, 1928, in New York City and joined Family Matters in 1996 at the age of 68 as Commissioner Geiss, a commanding and often intimidating authority figure who contrasted brilliantly with Carl Winslow's earnest, sometimes bumbling approach to law enforcement. O'Neill brought a gravitas and subtle humor to the screen, endearing himself to audiences despite his limited screen time, creating a memorable presence that lingered long after the episodes aired. Beneath the polished exterior, his upbringing in a working-class New York family was marked by adversity, financial insecurity, a father who demanded toughness, and the early death of a sibling that left an emotional scar. O'Neill concealed behind humor and a carefully cultivated stoicism. These formative years instilled in him a persistence that guided his lengthy career, but the path was far from smooth. He struggled against Hollywood typecasting, repeatedly being offered the same gruff authority roles, and he harbored bitter disappointment when passed over for major parts in films that might have elevated him to wider fame. Off-screen, O'Neill navigated a complicated domestic life, maintaining a marriage with actress Susan Jacqueline Shaw and raising 3 daughters while balancing demanding work schedules, often leaving him emotionally stretched and estranged at times. Despite these pressures, he remained a consummate professional, revered for his reliability by colleagues who appreciated his work ethic and understated talent. His health began to decline in the late 1990s, culminating in his death on November 17, 1998, from heart failure at the age of 70 in New York City. His estate, valued at around $1 million, consisted primarily of earnings from decades of steady work in television and film, leaving behind a legacy of enduring performances characterized by subtlety, precision, and a capacity to command the screen without seeking the spotlight, a quietly compelling career that inspired peers and left audiences with indelible, if understated, memories. Arnold Johnson was born on November 15, 1921, in Brooklyn, New York, and joined Family Matters in 1990 at the age of 69 as Fletcher Thomas, Rachel Crawford's sagacious and empathetic father-in-law whose quiet dignity and grounded presence softened the chaos of the Winslow household and provided viewers with a gentle, moral center. Johnson's childhood was deeply shaped by the economic and social turbulence of early 20th century America. Born to a modest family during an era of systemic discrimination and financial uncertainty, he experienced the sting of poverty, endured teasing and social marginalization for his slight physical stature and reserved personality, and watched a close sibling succumb to illness at a young age, leaving lasting grief and shaping his cautious yet compassionate approach to life. Professionally, Johnson faced extraordinary challenges. As a black actor in mid-century Hollywood, he contended with limited opportunities, recurring typecasting, and systemic barriers that forced him to navigate a precarious career path. His perseverance enabled him to secure roles in films such as Shaft and Rocky, but these accomplishments came at the cost of personal sacrifices and repeated disappointments, including unfulfilled hopes for more prominent, transformative roles. Johnson maintained a private personal life, foregoing marriage and focusing on his craft, mentorship of younger actors, and cultivating relationships within his professional network, even as the pressures of Hollywood and the burden of unrecognized talent weighed heavily on him. He passed away on April 10, 2000, at the age of 78, leaving behind a modest estate estimated under $500,000, which belied the magnitude of his contribution to American film and television. His enduring influence lies not in wealth but in the dignity, resilience, and quiet mentorship he provided, serving as a testament to the struggles and triumphs of character actors navigating systemic barriers in Hollywood. Ellen Albertini Dow was born on November 16, 1913, in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, and joined Family Matters in 1990 at the age of 76, playing Miss Gilbert, a feisty and eccentric elder whose sharp wit, exuberance, and comedic timing brought a lively spark to the show, capturing viewers' affection and transforming brief appearances into enduring memories. Dow's childhood was shaped by a mix of modest means and the instability of a working-class life. She grew up performing in church and community plays, but the early loss of a parent and the challenges of financial precarity forced her to develop resilience, resourcefulness, and a talent for concealing vulnerability behind humor and charm. These early trials informed her approach to acting, lending depth and authenticity to the roles she inhabited and imbuing even minor characters with personality and emotional resonance. Dow's adult life included further trials. She experienced periods of profound isolation after the death of her husband, Eugene Dow Jr., in 2004, endured age-related typecasting in Hollywood, and confronted physical challenges in her later years while continuing to perform, often defying expectations of elderly actors in mainstream entertainment. Professionally, she flourished late in life, reinventing herself as a screen actress in her 70s, gaining iconic recognition for roles that leveraged her stagecraft, comedic instincts, and energetic presence. Ellen Albertini Dow passed away on May 4, 2015, at the age of 101 from pneumonia, leaving an estate of approximately $2 million derived from royalties, pensions, and decades of performance income. Her legacy transcends financial value. It reflects an extraordinary life of artistic reinvention, resilience, and vitality, inspiring performers of all ages to embrace creativity and perseverance, demonstrating that it is never too late to make a lasting impact on culture and audiences alike. Naya Rivera was born on January 12, 1987, and at just 5 years old she turned up on Family Matters in 1992 as Gwendolyn, a bright little presence foreshadowing the magnetic, troublemaking teens she would later play. On screen she read as electric, quick-smiling, blunt, and unapologetic, a kid comfortable enough in her own skin to steal a scene and then make you want to know more. Behind that precocious charm was a complicated identity. Born in Valencia, California, to a Latinx father and African-American mother, Rivera carried Afro-Latina roots she later made central to her public image, but childhood was not all sunlight. She grew up in the shadow of a showbiz life, moving between auditions and the instability of early fame, often teased at school and pressured to perform to survive. The pivot moments of her life read like a Greek tragedy in modern headlines. After years of steadily rising work as a child actor, she burst onto the cultural map with Glee, only to see her personal life splashed across tabloid pages, a high-profile marriage and messy divorce from actor Ryan Dorsey, custody disputes, and candid struggles with mental health that she sometimes referenced in interviews. The most devastating event came in July 2020 when a family outing at Lake Piru ended in her accidental drowning while saving her son. The world learned then of a bravery that had always lived beside her vulnerability. In the years before her death she fought to transform pain into purpose, speaking about representation, supporting LGBTQ and Latinx causes, and trying to steer a post-Glee career toward mature roles, but the sudden end froze public fascination. Her estate, estimated around $5 million from acting, residuals and endorsements, passed through legal and familial wrangling and left a complicated afterimage. A talented young woman whose cultural imprint and calls for greater inclusivity outlived her, in a personal story that reads both as inspiration and cautionary tale about the cost of early fame. Ron Taylor was born on October 16, 1952, and at 38 he brought a booming presence to Family Matters in 1990 as Darnell Coleman, later returning as Pastor Peeble, roles that used his resonant voice and theatrical heft to add gravitas to sitcom scenes. Raised in Galveston, Texas, Taylor was the son of a black community shaped by segregation and resilient cultural expression. Those early years taught him to carry his voice like armor. He trained in theater and found his breakthrough creating and performing in the musical revue It Ain't Nothin' But the Blues, a work that traveled from clubs to Broadway and earned Tony recognition, proof that he could turn personal and communal sorrow into collective catharsis. Yet his career concealed constant scrambles, stints doing commercials, voice work, notably Audrey 2 in Little Shop of Horrors, and small screen bits that paid the bills but left him hungry for larger recognition. Personal tragedies and the grind of touring fractured close relationships. Colleagues remember a man who could light a stage yet return home exhausted and weighed by the realities of making art in a system that rarely rewarded black creators proportionally. His death from a heart attack on January 16, 2002, at 49 halted a voice that had been building bridges between blues, theater, and television. His modest estate, under $1 million, reflected a life devoted to craft rather than to accumulating wealth. Taylor's legacy lives in the artists he inspired and in the rare moments on screen where his warmth and authority turned a sitcom beat into something unexpectedly soulful. Sherman Hemsley was born on February 1, 1938, and at 56 he swaggered into Family Matters in 1994 as Captain Savage, delivering the same bombastic command that made George Jefferson an American archetype. Hemsley's on-screen image was thunderous, a man who could blaze through an entrance and leave the room rearranged, equal parts arrogance and comic timing, a figure viewers loved to boo and secretly root for. He hailed from South Philadelphia, the son of working-class parents, and his upbringing exposed him to blunt racial realities and economic precarity. Those early pressures sharpened a survival instinct that found its outlet in performance. Hemsley's career arc glittered with success but also bore private shadows. Typecasting boxed him into proud, blustering characters even as he wanted range, money management and a reclusive personal life fed rumor mills. The final act of his life grew messy, when he died on July 24, 2012. Complications related to superior vena cava syndrome, linked to cancer, ended a complicated public figure. Afterwards, protracted legal disputes over his remains and estate surfaced, exposing how fame can leave loved ones and affiliates fighting over legacy. At death his net worth was estimated near $3 million, tied up in royalties, property, and residuals, but the human legacy is thornier. Hemsley left behind a cultural imprint as one of television's most indelible black characters, even as questions linger about the man behind the brash laugh, a private person whose public persona both sheltered and compressed the vulnerabilities he seldom let the camera see. Tom Poston was born on October 17, 1921, in Columbus, Ohio, and appeared as Mr. Looney in Family Matters in 1994 at the age of 73. Delivering a performance that fused eccentricity with a timeless comedic sensibility, endearing him to audiences across generations. On screen, Mr. Looney was the quintessential bumbling, forgetful, yet lovable character whose presence illuminated otherwise straightforward sitcom scenarios, allowing Poston to channel decades of experience into subtle expressions and impeccable timing. Behind the camera, his early life was marked by struggle and resilience. Born to a modest family in the Midwest during the interwar period, he endured the economic hardships of the Great Depression, witnessed the fragility of family structures, and developed an early sense of performance as a refuge from adversity. Poston served in World War II, an experience that imbued him with discipline and an understanding of human vulnerability, yet he carried the psychological scars of wartime service throughout his life, which often informed the poignancy behind his comedic roles. Professionally, he faced periods of career uncertainty in post-war Hollywood, navigating typecasting as the perpetually confused everyman, and occasionally contended with the ephemeral nature of guest roles and sitcom work in a competitive industry. Personal life presented its own labyrinth of challenges. Multiple marriages, including his high-profile union with actress Suzanne Pleshette, required delicate navigation of public scrutiny and private heartache. Despite these trials, Poston maintained a steadfast commitment to his craft, continually reinventing his performances while mentoring younger actors. He passed away on April 30, 2007, in Los Angeles at age 85 from respiratory failure. His estate, valued at $15 million, included royalties from decades of television and theater work, real estate holdings, and memorabilia, leaving a legacy of comedic brilliance and a template for character actors who balance humor with humanity. His life an intricate dance of resilience, talent, and understated heroism. Fred Willard was born on September 18, 1933, in Cleveland, Ohio, and brought the role of Vice Principal Mallet to Family Matters in 1994 at age 61, portraying a clueless but endearing school administrator whose obliviousness sparked both laughter and reflection on institutional absurdities. Mallet's comedic presence was grounded in improvisation, timing, and subtle gestures that revealed Willard's mastery of layering humor with humanity. Willard's childhood in the industrial Midwest was steeped in modest means and conservative upbringing, which instilled both a work ethic and a self-deprecating wit that became hallmarks of his performances. He endured moments of isolation and introspection, particularly when societal expectations clashed with his burgeoning artistic inclinations, and he often used humor as a coping mechanism. His professional journey was filled with highs and lows. Though acclaimed for mockumentaries and ensemble comedies, he experienced career stagnation in periods dominated by dramatic television, and his 2012 arrest for a public indecency charge, though eventually dismissed, briefly overshadowed decades of professional respect, leaving a stain he had to navigate with dignity. Personally, Willard maintained a long marriage to Mary Lovell, yet it was occasionally strained by long hours on set and his compulsive devotion to work, a duality mirrored in his character's comedic yet flawed personas. Willard passed away on May 15, 2020, at age 86 from natural causes linked to myelodysplastic syndrome and coronary artery disease. His net worth of $5 million included earnings from decades of television, film, and voice work. Beyond material wealth, his enduring legacy lies in his gift for improvisational comedy, mentorship of emerging comic talent, and the indelible mark he left on American humor, with performances that resonate as both funny and deeply human. Donna Summer was born on December 31, 1948, in Boston, Massachusetts, and guest-starred as Aunt Una in Family Matters in 1994 at age 46. Portraying a whimsical, futuristic relative whose eccentricity allowed audiences to glimpse the playful side of the Queen of Disco. On screen, Aunt Una's charm combined comic timing with an underlying sense of empathy, reflecting Summer's ability to translate her musical stage presence into narrative acting, creating a character that was at once fantastical and emotionally resonant. Summer's early life was far from glamorous. Born into a working-class family with African-American and Italian roots, she navigated a turbulent childhood punctuated by parental separation, economic hardship, and a strict religious environment that demanded conformity while igniting her spiritual and artistic curiosity. Tragedy struck repeatedly, both personal and professional, including backlash against her career decisions in the 1980s, the pressure of sustaining superstardom, and ultimately the diagnosis of lung cancer, which she attributed to environmental toxins post 9/11. These events tested her resilience and forced introspection, yet Summer continued performing, channeling grief and vulnerability into music and public appearances, often quietly advocating for health awareness and artist rights. Her journey after adversity highlighted both her tenacity and vulnerability. She experimented with production, mentored younger musicians, and balanced public scrutiny with personal devotion to faith and family. Summer passed away on May 17, 2012, in Naples, Florida, at age 63 from lung cancer, leaving behind a fortune of $75 million, comprised of real estate, music royalties, and intellectual property. Her legacy extends far beyond material wealth. She reshaped disco and pop music, influenced generations of performers, and became a symbol of empowerment, creativity, and perseverance, with untold stories of battles fought both on stage and within the corridors of fame. Perry Stevens was born on February 14, 1958, in Frankfurt, Germany, into a military family whose constant relocations meant he rarely experienced a stable home environment, leaving him to navigate childhood largely alone while developing an early dependence on performance as a means of connection and validation. At age 40, he appeared in Family Matters in 1998 as a TV anchorman, a role brief but emblematic of his polished charisma and theatrical flair that had been honed through years of stage work and soap opera stints, including his work on Loving and the Bold and the Beautiful. Behind the screen, Stevens' life was far more turbulent than fans realized. Bouts of intense loneliness, unrecognized depression, and the pressures of sustaining a career in multiple countries pushed him into moments of self-doubt. Professionally, he experienced the frustrations of typecasting, missed opportunities, and being passed over for roles that could have propelled him to wider fame. His career was further complicated by his quiet struggles with health and exhaustion from relentless touring and performance schedules, forcing him to make tough choices between financial security and personal fulfillment. In his final years, Stevens focused on private musical projects, mentoring younger performers, and performing in intimate venues that never garnered mass attention but provided him with creative satisfaction and a sense of purpose. He passed away on September 8, 2005, at the age of 47 from liver failure, leaving behind an estate valued under $1 million, including music recordings, residuals from his television work, and personal memorabilia. While he remained largely scandal-free, the emotional depth he brought to his performances, the versatility of his craft, and his influence on younger artists constitute a subtle yet enduring legacy, revealing a man whose off-screen life was as complex, poignant, and layered as the roles he inhabited. Eddie Mecca was born on June 14, 1952, in Worcester, Massachusetts, to a working-class Italian-American family that often struggled to make ends meet, a background that left a lasting imprint of resilience, humor, and the need to entertain to survive emotionally. At 38, he appeared in Family Matters in 1990 as Charlie and later as Mr. Nutting, bringing his signature energetic, comedic, and musical talents to the screen. Mecca's childhood, surrounded by financial pressure and familial expectations, led him to seek escape and validation in music and theater, which later became the foundation for his career. He found fame in Laverne and Shirley as Carmine the Big Ragu Ragusa, a role that cemented his status as a beloved performer but also exposed him to the darker realities of celebrity, rigorous touring schedules, public scrutiny, and the challenge of sustaining personal relationships. Mecca faced personal health challenges and subtle professional frustrations, such as being typecast and navigating an industry that often undervalued his multifaceted talents. Despite these pressures, he channeled adversity into mentoring young performers and dedicating himself to musical theater education, using the stage as both refuge and medium of expression. He passed away on November 27, 2021, in Newhall, California, at age 69, leaving an estate valued around $2 million, comprised of residuals, music royalties, and performance memorabilia. Beyond financial assets, Mecca's enduring impact lies in his infectious performances, his influence on aspiring actors and musicians, and the warmth he brought to every project, making him an enduring figure in television and theater whose contributions continue to resonate across generations. Though time has passed, the laughter they gave us still echoes. The cast of Family Matters brought joy to millions, and even though some of them are no longer with us, their performances live on. As we remember those we've lost, we also celebrate the legacy they left behind, one that continues to entertain and connect generations. Thank you for joining us in honoring these unforgettable stars. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tributes to the legends of television history.